What's going on, everyone? This is Mitch with SC Weather. I hope y'all been having a great Thursday. As we begin to round off the work week, there's some things to talk about, as there has been the last few days as far as winter weather, as far as severe weather that's beginning to definitely ramp up, and it begins tomorrow. So areas in Texas, the south central U.S., there's a chance for severe weather. I wouldn't call it an outbreak. I don't think it's going to be anything comparable to some of the major events in the Deep South a few weeks back, but there's definitely going to be severe weather. Some supercells are going to fire up, but it looks like it's messy. And then we'll shift to Saturday and talk about what looks to be a big-time beneficial rainmaker, but with it in the Deep South, like Alabama, maybe central to South Georgia, Panhandle, Florida, South Carolina potentially, maybe up to North Carolina, maybe. The chance of severe weather with this, there's a lot of things that that we need to break down as far as what's the chances of severe weather, what's the chances of just heavy rain, and where. So we're going to break all that down. If you guys have not subscribed, definitely consider doing that. I'm just a small YouTuber that loves talking weather. I've had a lot of growth since the beginning of the year, especially when it was winter. People definitely like when you talk about winter weather here in the South a lot more. But I cover weather along the eastern U.S., specialize here in the Southeast, Deep South. Just a guy from Columbia, South Carolina that has a big passion about weather. So definitely consider subscribing, follow along, like the video if you like it, and also if there's anything that I can pray about, definitely drop it in the comments, so it gives me an opportunity to pray for you. It gives others an opportunity to reach out to you and pray for you. And definitely y'all keep me in the prayers too, because things are still pretty crazy right now in my life. I was beginning to adjust some things that I spoke on the last few days. But let's get going here. So the Storm Prediction Center, you got, I'll be honest, not a lot's changed. They haven't really upgraded this at all. It's still a slight risk. It might upgrade in the morning. If it does, it's going to upgrade to no higher than an enhanced risk, and I think it'll be very small. But to be honest, I think this is a good, slight risk is good here. But I wouldn't be chance if it went to enhanced, level 3 out of 5. But we'll see. Big area, covering some big cities in Dallas and stretching all the way to a big chunk of Louisiana into Mississippi and then up into Oklahoma. So definitely some storms are going to fire up here. Tornado threat, there is a little small areas of 5% right up here in Oklahoma, and from Dallas all the way to Jackson. So we'll watch this. Wind threats, 15% chance, and this is if you're in that 15% chance, what that means, and the same thing with tornado and hail, it's a 15% chance with 25 miles of any given location in this area. That's what that means, hail threat. You notice it's a little bit of a hatched area right here. The reason so is because there might be a dry line that develops here. Supercells like to flirt around with a dry line. They like to develop around there. And when you get supercells, you get the chance for elevated hail chances. So that's why there's kind of a more of an elevated area, a risk area right here. We're going to watch to see if this definitely increases. You go to day 3. Hopefully my internet will work out here. There it goes. Day 3, we have the slight risk. Same areas as we talked about yesterday. Hasn't really upgraded or went anywhere, but there's a slight risk for Columbia, Columbus, anybody. If you're in this yellow area, Charleston, this might tweak a little bit. So we'll see what this does. Wouldn't be surprised if, as we're getting into short-range models like the HRRR model, the NAM, and things like that, which, by the way, are a little different. And I'll talk about that here. So stay with me, guys. And we're going to talk about where and who's going to get the worst. So big area of slight risk, just like there is at day 2. So there's chances for this to get worse. There's chances for this to get better as far as severe weather. So we'll see. But, you know, there's not really, it gets into day 2 and we can really begin to see, specify what severe weather threat. So HRRR model, we're going to talk about that, and then we're going to talk about the NAM. So stick around if you want to see the NAM too. But as we're getting into Friday morning, we got a little morning convection across the entire Deep South and Mid-South, or really just the Mid-South and South Central U.S. But as you get into Friday evening, convection begins to blow up. Notice you're not seeing really discrete cells here in Texas. It's just a blob of convection. This is good and bad. Good because you're not going to, if you're going off the models, you might not have discrete cells. But then as you get into later Friday afternoon, check out these cells right here if you can see them just south of Dallas. You get south of these can be little hooks in these storms, and you have to watch out. These can be dangerous. So if they can get a little discreet, if there's a little bit of cap in the upper layers in the atmosphere, meaning it prevents a lot of sloppy convection. If you got a little bit of a cap, it makes the storms work for it a little bit more to explode, if that makes any sense. But the reason this could be dangerous is because it could get messy. That means rain-wrapped tornadoes. But I do think we're going to see a tornado or two tomorrow in Texas and eastern Texas. So watch out, Dallas. It's going to be its own little area up here where some discrete cells can fire up. And then check out right here, as you're getting into the evening hours, some more cells may begin to form in Oklahoma. But this turns, as you get later into the night, into a big area of just sloppy convection, a lot of heavy rain, a lot of gusty winds, and it might just turn into a big old squall line that goes through the same area that got hit by a big-time squall line a couple weeks ago. So that's Jackson, that's Montgomery, Alabama, potentially Pensacola, Tallahassee, talking about all you guys. So this could turn to a nasty line of storms for your Saturday morning. I don't know why I can't remember, but it seems like it was Saturday morning when this line of storms moved through a couple weeks ago too. But you're going through here in time. But notice here, my guys, folks in the Carolinas and Georgia, this is a big-time area of heavy rain. Notice you're not getting a lot of severe weather if you're going off this in Atlanta or something like this. But look at this down here in South Georgia as you're getting into later in the morning hours. This is, depending on how fast this speeds this up, morning convection is going to mess up any severe weather. So basically, if we're going off this, to me, you're going to get a lot of heavy rain in South Carolina, but I don't see a ton of severe weather, for example, in South Carolina, unless you're in deep southern areas of South Carolina. But this is definitely going to change. We're just starting to get in the range of the long range, and we're still 48 hours, well, a little under 48 hours of this event. So, but look at this big old line of storms moving through southern areas of Georgia into the panhandle of Florida. So this is what we have to watch out for. But this is going to be not a raw day. Raw day is heavy rain and it's cold, but it's going to be pretty chilly up in here in North Carolina. We got to figure out where this warm front is going to set up here. But what we're going to show here next is dew points. So dew points give us a good idea of what kind of moisture feed that we have. Notice dew points spike as you get into Texas, central Texas into eastern Texas. They spike into the 60s, even some 70s, especially in more southern areas, southeastern areas of Texas. But look at the little dry line popping up here. You got dew points in 20s and 60s right beside each other. That's what you call a dry line. So where you could get some supercells to explode. So this convection is going to blow up right here. And that's when you have a chance of isolated, discrete storms that could pop up before it kind of gets messy. But even if it's messy, it's going to be some spin in the atmosphere for sure. So the low-level jet's going to form right here. And I didn't really pull up the 850s here. It seems like I have it in the last few videos and I forget, but basically a low-level jet's going to form here. You get fast speeds in the atmosphere, fast winds in the upper atmosphere, and there's going to be a spin, which we call shear. So it's not a ton of low-level shear, but it's enough to be some spin. So as you're getting here and there's more stable air moves through, some dew points begin to rise into Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, and the Carolinas. But notice you don't get a lot of deep moisture, moist air that really gets into the Carolinas. So that's something we have to watch for sure. So this is just the HRRR. Now we look at the Cape. Notice Cape spikes in Tennessee. Storms up to 2,000 to 3,000 joules per kilogram, even up to 3,500 joules per kilogram. Surface Cape here. And then as it stabilizes, the system moves overnight. It spikes here in the deep south as we get into Saturday afternoon. So we'll have to see what's going on. But this is kind of after a lot of the forcing and the storms have already moved through. So notice you don't have much Cape in the Carolinas or Georgia. So it's going to be kind of driven off a line of storms. So you go to supercell composite parameter and it's going to spike in Texas. It's because you got that dry line popping up. So there's going to be a chance for rotating thunderstorms right along the dry line that's going to form. Some pretty high values. It gets kind of messy and then things stabilize, but still where the line of storms is developing here. There's more stable air here because it's rain-cooled air because you have a lot of convection right here. But where the line, you can tell where the line is draping here of storms. So ahead of the line, you have to watch out into the overnight hours into Alabama and Mississippi for the threat of a tornado or two. You never know with this setup, especially if you're not in areas where there's rain-cooled air. You're kind of south of the main energy where the storms have not moved through and stabilized the atmosphere. So the significant tornado parameter, we'll take a look at this. Notice it's not very high. So then not just because there's some lack of some ingredients to help tornadoes. But one thing I want to watch here is when you get a lot of this energy that begins to move east, there's going to be some more energy that pops up here in parts of Oklahoma right in here that could pop up some rotating thunderstorms and some tornadoes. And I'm watching this, some individual cells could pop up, and this moves through. And notice this little small threat down here that I was just talking about. So the Gulf shores, the Gulf Coast, and just inland, we have to watch out for. So the coastal areas of Mississippi and Alabama and the panhandle of Florida. Watch out here for sure. This is something you need to pay attention to. Now we look at the NAM. It's a little bit different. Not really for Texas. It kind of shows the same thing. A lot of messy convection. Have to watch out. The HRRR. But look at these little small cells popping up. As you get late into the afternoon and evening hours. But you notice this little cell right here. It's getting close to like Wichita Falls, Texas, and things like that. These are the little individual renegade cells that you got to beat. And then it's moving through here. So you have to watch out for these individual cells. And then that kind of turns into its own little individual line of storms that you have to watch out for. So, and it's the same thing, spike and dew points. Check out that. This is always really cool to see. Weathermodels.com has a really cool site here. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know where the moist air is here in the oranges and kind of warmer looking colors. And then the colder looking colors, these are where the drier air is. And this happens in Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska. A dry line sets up, and basically half the state is sitting in stable, very, very dry, chapstick-like air. And then the other part of Texas, the eastern part of Texas, is in a tropical air mass. So Cape builds here pretty high. It's about the same as the HRRR model as far as how Cape builds. But you move a little further east, and this is kind of how this develops for the NAM as far as areas in the southeast and deep south. Notice a big area of convection as you get overnight Friday into Saturday gets going. But the line of storms is a little bit different here. With the NAM, with the HRRR model, you had a lot of energy down here. With the NAM, you have a lot up here. So to me, that's telling me that the heavier, more consistent rain is into North Carolina and Virginia. So that tells me that the surface low is probably moving a little bit more north. And that what also tells me is that's bringing a warm front more north, more moist air a little bit more north. So as you're getting going through here, you have a line of storms that develops and more of a juiced up atmosphere. And this is just totally different than the HRRR model. So this has a line of storms that develops, moves through South Carolina, and it's almost like a squall line kind of type deal. A very intense line of storms develops kind of in Georgia and Alabama and moves through South Carolina, maybe parts of North Carolina, Georgia, into the afternoon hours Saturday. So in any cells that kind of develop ahead of this would be dangerous for sure. But this is an interesting thing because if you compare the two models, they're totally different. You look at Cape, not really any Cape builds, but it's a lot further north than the HRRR model. I will tell you this. The HRRR model has been on it lately. It has been very accurate. It has been doing a great job for the most part. NAM has not been doing bad, but not as good as the HRRR model. So kind of gives you an idea of which one to take more serious. But you have some serious Cape building here. Cape is convective energy, so energy for storm development. Building here all the way into central Alabama and Mississippi, and it gets all the way into Georgia. So there's a lot of energy available here for storms. But dew points, you can also tell off the NAM that there's dew points, higher dew points to go work a little bit further north. So the NAM has the warm front much further north ahead of the cold front. So significant tornado parameter is also higher, and it goes further north. So the NAM is a lot different, and I think it's because it brings more the low pressure a little bit more north, and I think it just brings more of the ingredients more north because of that. So it brings the warm front more north, more moist air gets more north, more energy gets more north, so you have the higher risk of supercells, tornadoes, and something to develop more north into the Carolinas. So be on guard. It could get a little nasty Saturday, and we'll continue to monitor to see what develops. Thank you all for watching, and y'all have a great night.